The words cut through the morning air like a blade. Captain Anders, if you cannot maintain even basic uniform standards, perhaps this camp is not for beginners. Colonel Victor Hale's voice carried across the parade ground, amplified by the stillness before dawn. 60 officers and trainees stood in formation, breath misting in the cold. At the center of the concrete square, a woman stood alone. Captain Lila Anders, 5'4", dark brown hair pulled tight, eyes the color of storm clouds. She did not move, did not speak. The only sign of life was the subtle rise and fall of her chest. 4 counts in, 4 counts out, 4 counts hold. Repeat. Hale descended from the podium, boots echoing against stone. He circled her like a predator assessing prey. Do you see this? He gestured to a small grease stain on her gray physical training shirt, barely visible in the dim light. This is what happens when we lower our standards, when we allow distractions. The way he said the word made it clear what he meant. The formation shifted uncomfortably, a few suppressed smirks. Lila's face remained blank. Her hands hung loose at her sides, but anyone watching closely would notice the white knuckles, the tendons standing out on her wrists. Hale stopped directly in front of her, close enough that she could smell his coffee breath. I have half a mind to send you back to whatever desk you crawled out from, but first, he raised his voice. Corporal Briggs, front and center. A mountain of a man stepped forward. Jake Briggs, former college linebacker, 240 pounds of muscle and ego. He had been grinning since the moment Hale called Lila's name. Sir, he barked. Hale waved dismissively. The captain's undershirt. I need to verify it meets regulation. Inspect it. The order hung in the air. Briggs hesitated for half a second, then moved behind Lila. She did not turn, did not tense, just kept breathing. 4 counts, 4 counts, 4 counts. Briggs grabbed the back of her collar. Ma'am, this is going to be quick. His voice carried false courtesy. Then he yanked, hard. The sound of tearing fabric was shockingly loud. The shirt ripped from neckline to mid-spine, the seam giving way like paper. Cold air hit Lila's exposed skin. Gasps rippled through the formation. But not because of the humiliation. Because of what the torn shirt revealed. Ink. Dark and intricate, covering the entire expanse of her back. A massive bird of prey, wings spread wide from shoulder to shoulder, talons curled, beak sharp, each feather rendered in stunning detail, shaded to catch light and shadow. At the center of the bird's chest, small text. At the base of the wings, more text. Too far for most to read, but close enough to see the craftsmanship. This was not a parlor tattoo. This was art. And something else. Something that made the veteran standing in the back row narrow his eyes. The laughter started almost immediately. Holy cow, that is one serious bird, someone muttered. Another voice, louder. Did she get that at a zoo? Snickers spread like wildfire. Hale stepped back, arms crossed, a satisfied smirk playing on his lips. Well, Captain, I must admit that is impressive, in a certain light. He tilted his head mockingly. Tell me, how much did that masterpiece cost? More than your signing bonus, I would wager. More laughter. Lila still had not moved. Her back was fully exposed now, the torn shirt hanging off her shoulders like rags. The morning sun crept over the horizon, illuminating the ink. The hawk seemed to shimmer. Hale leaned in, squinting at the small text near the bird's chest. He could not quite make it out from where he stood. What does it say? Something inspirational, I bet. Love, laugh, love. The crowd roared. Briggs, still holding the torn fabric, grinned wide. Looks like one of those wannabe operator tattoos, sir. You know, the kind people get when they watch too many action movies. Hale nodded sagely. Ah, yes, the I wish I was a warrior special. I have seen a dozen of these, usually accompanied by a CrossFit membership and a lifted truck. He turned to address the formation. Let this be a lesson. You can dress yourself up, you can ink yourself from head to toe, but you cannot fake what matters. Competence, experience, respect. He looked back at Lila. Get yourself a new shirt, Captain, and next time, try covering that artwork. This is a military installation, not a tattoo convention. He waved dismissively. Dismissed. Lila exhaled slowly. 4 counts out. She turned without a word, walking toward the nearest building. Her back remained straight, her pace measured. Behind her, the whispers continued. Can you believe that? Probably got it done on spring break. I bet it is not even finished. Looks like she ran out of money halfway through. In the back row, Sergeant Major Thomas Hayes did not join the laughter. He was 58, 32 years in uniform. He had seen things, done things, and he recognized something the others did not. The style of that ink, the precision, the way it sat on her skin, that was not civilian work. That was military art, the kind done in field hospitals or safe houses, the kind that carried meaning. He watched Lila disappear into the barracks, then glanced at the man standing next to him. Commander Adam Reed, Navy SEAL, liaison for this joint training operation. Reed was staring at the spot where Lila had stood, his expression unreadable. "Something on your mind, Commander?" Hayes asked quietly. Reed shook his head slowly. Her posture. When Briggs grabbed her, she did not flinch, did not pull away, just stood there, like she was used to it. Hayes grunted. "Used to what?" Reed's jaw tightened. "Pain. Control. I have only seen that kind of stillness in people who have been through SEER training. Survival, evasion, resistance, escape. The kind of training reserved for operators who might be captured behind enemy lines." Hayes raised an eyebrow. "You think she is something more than a liaison officer?" Reed did not answer. He just kept staring. Inside the barracks bathroom, Lila stood in front of the cracked mirror. The torn shirt hung in tatters. The hawk stared back at her from the reflection, wings framed by fluorescent light. She reached into her pocket and pulled out a small metal coin. The surface was worn smooth from years of handling. On one side, an engraved emblem, a bird. On the reverse, a serial number. She ran her thumb over it, then placed it carefully on the edge of the sink. Her reflection showed no emotion, no anger, no shame. Just a woman breathing. 4 counts, 4 counts, 4 counts. Then for the first time that morning, she smiled. It was not a happy smile. It was the smile of someone watching pieces fall into place. Someone who knew something no one else did. She pulled on a fresh shirt, tucked the coin back into her pocket, and walked out. The rest of the day passed in a blur of pointed glances and whispered jokes. At breakfast, someone made a comment about flying away from responsibilities. During the morning briefing, an instructor asked if she had any other surprises hidden under there. Lila said nothing. She ate her meal, took notes, completed her assigned tasks. Admin work, filing reports, organizing supply manifests, the kind of work that made people forget you existed. By noon, her name was already being used as a punchline. Pull and Anders became shorthand for looking tough but being useless. Lieutenant Derek Foster, a signals officer with a talent for gossip, started a group chat. The first message was a crude drawing of a bird with the caption, "NATO's newest mascot, the do-nothing hawk." Within an hour, 20 people had joined. Lila saw none of it. She was too busy watching, observing, noting who laughed, who stayed silent, who looked uncomfortable, and most importantly, who looked afraid. Colonel Hale spent the afternoon in his office reviewing personnel files. He paused on Lila's folder. Captain Lila Anders, 29 years old. Commissioned through ROTC. Military Occupational Specialty, Intelligence Analyst. Previous postings, Fort Bragg, Ramstein Air Base. Current assignment, NATO Liaison Officer. 0 combat deployments listed. 0 field operations. 0 anything interesting. He closed the file with a satisfied snap. Just another paper pusher trying to play soldier. He had seen 100 like her. They showed up, claimed they wanted to make a difference, then spent their entire careers pushing pixels and attending meetings. The tattoo was probably the most exciting thing she had ever done. He leaned back in his chair, fingers steepled. The problem was not Lila herself. The problem was what she represented. A crack in the system, a reminder that standards were slipping. And Hale could not afford cracks. Not now. Not with the audit coming. Not with certain financial irregularities that needed to stay buried. Better to remove the distraction early. Make an example. Show everyone that competence mattered more than appearance. He picked up his phone and dialed. "Major Cross, I need you to do something for me." The next morning, Lila was reassigned. Mission 1. Tactical Close Quarters Battle Drill. Live fire exercise in the kill house. Hale made the announcement personally during the morning briefing. "Captain Anders, you will be joining Bravo Team for today's CQB training. Since you have been so eager to prove yourself, this should be a perfect opportunity." He smiled thinly. "I have taken the liberty of arranging your equipment. Report to the range at 0800. The room went quiet. CQB drills were intense, high pressure, designed to push experienced operators to their limits. Putting a desk officer into that environment was either a test or a setup, probably both. Lila nodded once. "Yes, sir." At the range, she found her gear waiting. A rifle, old model, scratched stock. The sights were slightly off-center. Anyone could see it. A tactical vest 2 sizes too large hanging off her frame like a poncho. An earpiece that crackled with static even when turned off. Bravo team stood nearby, checking their own equipment. All men, all experienced, all watching her with expressions ranging from pity to amusement. Corporal Miles Chen spoke first. "Ma'am, no disrespect, but have you done this before?" Lila adjusted the vest straps. "I will manage." Chen exchanged glances with his teammates. "Right. Well, the drill is simple. 3-room clear. Hostage targets mixed with threat targets. We go in as a team, neutralize threats, secure hostages. You will be rear security. Just stay behind us and do not shoot anyone by accident." The team leader, Staff Sergeant Travis Cole, stepped forward. He was older, calmer. "Captain, if you are not comfortable with this, there is no shame in sitting it out. This is advanced training." Lila met his eyes. "I will manage," she repeated. Cole sighed. "All right, your call." The buzzer sounded. The team stacked up at the entry point. Lila took her position at the rear, rifle held in low ready. The door breached. Smoke. Shouting. The team flowed in like water, each man moving to his sector. Lila followed. They cleared the first room in seconds. 2 threat targets down. No hostages. They moved to the second room. This was where things went wrong. The team entered fast. Too fast. They did not check the corner. A hidden threat target popped up. Chen swung his rifle, but his angle was bad. He would hit a hostage target if he fired. He froze. Cole barked, "Hold fire! Chen, reposition!" But there was no time. The drill was live. The clock was running. If they did not neutralize the threat in 3 seconds, this scenario counted as a failure. Cole cursed under his breath. Then Lila moved. Not forward, not back. Lateral. 2 steps to the right, changing her angle. Her rifle came up smooth. 1 shot. Center mass. The threat target flipped backward. Chen stared. "How did you—" Lila was already moving to the third room. Cole blinked, then followed. The third room was chaos. 4 targets, 2 hostages. Tight angles. The team spread out, calling targets. But the room was too small. Bodies blocked lines of fire. Someone would have to take a risky shot. Lila did not hesitate. She dropped to one knee, creating a lower angle. Fired twice. 2 threat targets down. The hostages remained untouched. The drill ended. The range officer's voice crackled over the intercom. "Clear. Time 47 seconds. New record for this facility." Silence. Then the officer added, "Previous record was 52 seconds, held by a SEAL instructor." The team stood frozen. Chen looked at his rifle, then at Lila. "What the hell?" Cole's expression had shifted from annoyance to confusion. "Captain, where did you learn to shoot like that?" Lila saved her rifle, ejected the magazine. "Practice." She set the weapon down and walked toward the exit. Behind her, the team exchanged stunned looks. Cole pulled out his phone, texted someone. Hayes, watching from the observation booth, leaned forward. "Rewind that." The technician complied. The footage played again in slow motion. Hayes watched Lila's footwork, the way she moved. Pieing corners, low ready carry, perfect trigger discipline, every movement economical, efficient, trained. This was not practice. This was muscle memory, the kind built over years, over deployments, over real gunfights. He zoomed in on her hands, the way she gripped the rifle. Thumbs forward, elbows tucked. Exactly how Tier 1 operators held their weapons. Hayes sat back slowly. "Commander Reed, you need to see this." Reed arrived 10 minutes later. Hayes played the footage without comment. Reed watched in silence. When it finished, he asked the technician to rewind to the moment Lila took the corner shot. Freeze frame. Reed studied the screen. Her stance, her posture, the angle of her head. "That is a JSOC technique," he said quietly. "Joint Special Operations Command, the umbrella organization for Delta, SEAL Team 6, and other elite units. Specifically, the way she indexes off the door frame. That is taught at advanced CQB courses, the kind reserved for people who do hostage rescue for a living." Hayes nodded. "And the shot grouping. Did you see where her rounds landed? Both targets hit within a 2-inch circle, at 15 feet, while kneeling with a rifle that has misaligned sights." Reed rubbed his jaw. "She compensated for the sight issue without test firing. That means she knew it was off the moment she picked it up." "Which means she knows her gear," Hayes added. "Really knows it." They stared at the frozen image. Lila's face was calm, focused. No adrenaline spike, no excitement. Just someone doing a job they had done 1,000 times before. Reed pulled out his phone. I am checking her file again. He scrolled through the digital records. Says here she is an intelligence analyst. No advanced weapons training listed, no CQB school, no combat deployments. Then where did she learn? Hayes asked. Reed did not answer. At the range, Lila was alone. She had stayed behind after the team left, collecting her spent brass casings. A habit. She arranged them carefully on the concrete, 3 casings, forming a small triangle. She stared at it for a moment, then scattered them with her boot. Old habits were dangerous. She turned to leave and nearly collided with Sergeant Carter, the range officer. He held a clipboard, pen tapping nervously. Captain Anders, that was impressive. Lila nodded once. Thank you. Carter hesitated. I have been running this range for 8 years. I have seen Green Berets, Rangers, SEALs, Delta. You just beat all their times. Lila's expression did not change. Favorable conditions. Wind was calm. Carter blinked. Wind? Ma'am, this is an indoor range. Exactly, Lila said. She walked past him. Carter stood there, pen frozen mid-tap. Then he looked down at his clipboard, at the target analysis. Every one of Lila's shots had hit within the thoracic triangle, the kill zone, not one stray round, not one wasted movement. He had seen thousands of shooters, but only a handful shot like that. And all of them had one thing in common. They had seen real combat. He pulled out his radio. This is range control. I need to speak with Commander Reed. It is urgent. If you have ever been underestimated, you know the quiet power of proving them wrong. Hit that like button if you believe actions speak louder than words. And if you want to see how patience becomes power, subscribe, because this story is just getting started. By evening, word of Lila's performance had spread, but instead of respect, it sparked resentment. In the mess hall, Foster held court at a corner table. So, she got lucky on one drill. Big deal. Probably been practicing that specific scenario for weeks. Someone asked, how would she know which scenario? Foster waved dismissively. Insider information. She is liaison, right? Probably saw the drill plan ahead of time. Murmurs of agreement. That made sense. That fit the narrative. Desk officer cheats to look good. Much easier to believe than the alternative. At another table, Briggs chewed his food slowly. He had not been at the range, but he had heard. 47 seconds. Record time. It bothered him. Not because he doubted the story, because he remembered the way Lila had stood when he tore her shirt, completely still. No fear, no anger. Like she was somewhere else entirely. Like she had been through worse. He pushed his tray away, appetite gone. Across the hall, Lila sat alone. She ate methodically. Chicken, rice, vegetables, proper nutrition, proper fuel. She did not look at the other tables, did not acknowledge the whispers, just ate. 4 bites, sip of water, 4 bites, repeat. Hayes watched her from the serving line, the way she ate, the way she sat. Even that was controlled, disciplined. He had seen prisoners of war eat like that, people who had learned to make every meal count because they did not know when the next one would come. That night, in his quarters, Reed could not sleep. He kept thinking about the footage, about the way Lila moved. It reminded him of something. Someone. A memory from years ago, hazy and incomplete. He had been 19, fresh out of basic underwater demolition SEAL training, assigned to a convoy escort mission in Syria. Standard job. Protect a VIP analyst traveling between safe houses. The analyst had been quiet, small, unassuming. Reed had barely paid attention. Then the IED hit. The lead vehicle disintegrated. Fire, smoke, screaming. Reed's Humvee flipped. He remembered being trapped under twisted metal, bleeding, fading, and then hands, small hands, pulling him free. A voice, calm, steady. Stay with me. 4 counts in, 4 counts out. The analyst had dragged him to cover, applied pressure to his wounds, called for medevac, stayed with him until the helicopter arrived. Reed had passed out before he could see her face clearly. When he woke up in the field hospital, she was gone. The official report listed her as civilian contractor, identity redacted for operational security. He had tried to find her, to thank her, but the trail went cold. He sat up in bed, heart pounding. 4 counts in, 4 counts out. That was what Lila had whispered when she treated Private Lee. The same cadence, the same rhythm. Reed grabbed his laptop, opened the classified personnel database, started searching. civilian contractors, Syria, 2017 to 2019, redacted identities, cross-referenced with medical personnel, intelligence analysts, female, age range 25 to 30. The search returned 43 results. He narrowed it down, added filters, combat casualty care certification, HUMINT training, language skills. The list shrank. 20 results. 10. 5. Then one name appeared with a notation that made his blood run cold. Captain Lila Anders. Assignment, Ghost Hawk Intelligence Cell. Status, killed in action 2019. Record sealed. Reed stared at the screen. KIA, killed in action. But she was here, alive, walking around, breaking records, which meant either the database was wrong or someone had faked her death. The next morning brought Mission 2. Private Lee was a 20-year-old kid from Ohio, eager, nervous, trying too hard to fit in. During an obstacle course drill, he misjudged a wall climb. His hand slipped. He fell 12 feet onto gravel. The sound of breaking bone echoed across the training yard. Lee screamed. His left leg bent at an angle that made grown men wince. White bone protruded through skin. Compound fracture. Blood pooled beneath him. People froze. Someone yelled, "Medic!" But the medic was 300 yards away, treating a sprained ankle. Response time, 5 minutes minimum. Lee kept screaming. His teammates crowded around, unsure what to do. Panic spread like a virus. Then Lila was there. She dropped to her knees beside Lee, voice cutting through the chaos. "Lee, look at me." He did, eyes wild with pain and fear. "Breathe with me," she said. 4 counts in. She demonstrated. Lee tried to follow, gasping. 4 counts out! His breathing began to steady, just slightly. Lila was already moving. She pulled a small kit from her cargo pocket. Combat gauze, SAM splint, nitrile gloves. Where had she gotten those? Standard issue did not include that level of medical gear. She snapped the gloves on. "This will hurt, but if I do not stabilize this now, you will lose the leg. Do you understand?" Lee nodded, tears streaming. Lila worked fast. She packed the wound with gauze, applying pressure to stop the hemorrhaging. Her hands were rock steady, no hesitation, no wasted motion. She talked while she worked, voice calm and clinical. The human body can lose about 15% of its blood volume before shock sets in. You are at maybe 8%. You are okay. You are going to be okay. Lee clung to her words like a lifeline. She splinted the leg, immobilizing the fracture. Then she pulled out a radio, not the standard issue training radio. Something else, smaller, more sophisticated. She keyed the mic. "This is NATO training actual. I need immediate medical evacuation. 1 casualty. Compound fracture left tibia fibula. Heavy bleeding, now controlled. Patient stable but requires surgical intervention within 30 minutes. She rattled off a 9-line report. Precise, perfect. Every piece of information delivered in the exact format used by combat medics. Line 1, grid coordinates. Line 2, radio frequency. Line 3, number of patients. Line 4, special equipment required. All the way through line 9, patient nationality. People stared. That was not something you learned in a classroom. That was something you learned by calling in real medevacs, under fire, with lives depending on your accuracy. The helicopter arrived 7 minutes later. Paramedics jumped out, assessed Lee, and loaded him onto a stretcher. The lead paramedic paused. "Who did the initial stabilization?" Someone pointed at Lila. The paramedic looked at her work, the gauze packing, the splint placement. "This is textbook, better than textbook. You just saved his leg." Lila stood, peeling off the bloody gloves. "He did the hard part. He stayed calm." The paramedic shook his head. "Ma'am, I have been doing this for 15 years. What you just did, that is Tactical Combat Casualty Care, TCCC. Where did you train?" Lila did not answer. She just walked away. Behind her, the crowd murmured. Hayes pushed through to the front. He looked at the blood-soaked gravel, at the discarded medical packaging. His eyes narrowed. TCCC was not taught to liaisons. It was taught to medics, rangers, special forces, people who operated in places where help was not coming. He picked up one of the glove wrappers, standard military issue, but the lot number on the packaging was old, pre-2020. These gloves had been in someone's personal kit for years, which meant Lila carried her own trauma supplies, just in case. Hayes folded the wrapper carefully and put it in his pocket. At the field hospital, Lee was prepped for surgery. His mother was contacted. The prognosis was good. Full recovery expected. The attending surgeon reviewed the intake notes and frowned. Who performed the field stabilization? This is graduate-level trauma care. The nurse checked the chart. A Captain Anders, liaison officer. The surgeon read the notes again. Then he called the base commander. Sir, we may have a problem, or an asset. I am not sure which. That afternoon, Lila was summoned to Major Owen Cross's office. Cross was the admin officer, thin, balding, the kind of man who lived for paperwork and regulations. He did not look up when she entered. Captain Anders, I have been asked to conduct a review of your medical certifications. Lila stood at attention. Sir? Cross pulled a file from his desk. According to your records, you have basic first aid training, completed 6 years ago, nothing advanced, certainly nothing that would qualify you to perform emergency field medicine. He finally looked at her. Yet you just executed a 9-line medevac request and provided TCCC-level care. Care that, according to the surgeon, saved Private Lee's leg and possibly his life. Lila said nothing. Cross leaned back. So, either our records are incomplete, or you have skills that are not documented. Which is it? I learned from experience, sir. What experience? Previous postings. Cross's eyes narrowed. Your file lists you at Fort Bragg and Ramstein. Desk assignments. No field time. No deployments. Where exactly did you gain this experience? Lila met his gaze. Sometimes people learn skills outside official channels, sir. Cross stared at her for a long moment. Then he closed the file. I am going to pretend this conversation never happened. But understand something, Captain. People are starting to ask questions. And when people ask questions, they tend to find answers, whether you want them to or not. Lila nodded. Understood, sir. She left. Cross watched her go. Then he picked up his phone. Colonel Hale, we need to talk about Anders. That evening, Foster's group chat exploded. Someone had leaked photos of Lila's medical intervention, close-ups of her hands, the gauze packing, the splint. A medic in the chat analyzed the technique. This is not amateur hour. Whoever did this has done it before, multiple times, under pressure. Foster tried to spin it. She probably took a weekend course, YouTube University. But the pushback was immediate. You do not learn this from videos. You learn this by doing it, for real. The chat went quiet. Then someone posted a question. What if she is not just a liaison? No one responded. The idea hung there. Uncomfortable. Unsettling. If Lila was not what she claimed, then what was she? And why was she here? At the same time, Reed was in Hayes' office. They sat in silence, watching footage of Lila treating Lee. Hayes spoke first. I pulled her medical kit packaging. The lot numbers date back to 2018. That gear is over 6 years old, which means she has been carrying personal trauma supplies since at least 2018. Reed added, and the way she talked to Lee, keeping him calm, that is psychological first aid. PFA. They teach that to people who deal with combat stress regularly. Hayes nodded. Operators, medics, people who see traumatic injuries often enough that they need strategies to keep patients from going into psychological shock. Reed rubbed his temples. I found something else. In the classified database, there was a unit, Ghost Hawk Intelligence Cell, operated in Syria and Iraq from 2017 to 2019. Covert reconnaissance, HUMINT, direct action when necessary. What happened to them? Hayes asked. Reed's voice was grim. The operation was aborted in 2019. Most of the team was listed as KIA. The survivors were redacted, their identities sealed. And Lila? Listed as KIA, Reed said. But the death report is thin, no body recovery, no confirmation, just presumed dead following extraction failure. Hayes leaned forward. You think she was Ghost Hawk? I think someone wanted people to believe she was dead, Reed said. And now she is here, pretending to be a desk officer, letting people mock her, letting them underestimate her. Why? The question hung between them. Then Hayes said slowly, you do not fake your own death unless you are hunting something, or someone. She saved a life with skills that were not supposed to exist in her file. What is your theory? Drop it in the comments. And if you are hooked, share this with someone who loves a mystery. Let us figure this out together. Mission 3 came 2 days later. The NATO camp received an encrypted message from a forward operating unit in Poland. Standard communication, except the cryptographer, Specialist Vega, was violently ill, food poisoning, bedridden. The message needed decoding within 20 minutes. It contained targeting coordinates for a live-fire drone exercise. If the coordinates were not decoded and transmitted in time, the exercise would be scrubbed. Wasting resources, embarrassing leadership. Hale saw an opportunity. He summoned Lila to the communications center. Captain Anders, Specialist Vega is incapacitated. You are the senior intelligence officer present. This message needs decoding. Headquarters says they can send a replacement cryptographer, but it will take 45 minutes. We have 20. Can you handle it? The room was full of people, signals officers, technicians, all watching, all waiting to see her fail. Lila looked at the encrypted text on the screen, blocks of seemingly random letters and numbers. I can try, sir. Hale smiled. Please do. He left the room. The clock started. Foster stood nearby, arms crossed. Captain, if you need help, just say so. No shame in admitting this is over your head. Lila did not respond. She pulled a chair to the keyboard and stared at the message. 10 seconds passed. 20. Someone whispered, "She has no idea." Then Lila's fingers started moving. She pulled up a blank document, began writing, not typing. Writing with pen and paper, old school. She muttered under her breath. Caesar variant, rotating key, time-stamp seed. Foster frowned. What? Lila ignored him. She scribbled numbers, letters, cross-referencing them with the message timestamp. Her hand moved fast, confident, no hesitation. 3 minutes passed, then 5. The room was silent except for the scratch of pen on paper. At the 8-minute mark, Lila stopped writing. She typed a long string of text into the decryption software. Hit enter. The screen flickered. Then clear text appeared. Coordinates, instructions, mission parameters. All correct. The technician stared. How did you... Lila stood. The message is decoded. Transmit to the exercise coordinator. She handed the paper to Foster and walked out. Total time, 11 minutes, 42 seconds. Foster looked at the paper. It was covered in calculations, cipher wheels, frequency analysis, the kind of work that required years of cryptography training or field experience. He flipped the page. In the corner, barely visible, a small notation, 2 letters and a number. NH7. He stared at it. What did that mean? He took a photo with his phone, sent it to Hayes. Found this on Anders' work. Any idea what NH7 means? Hayes saw the message. His stomach dropped. He forwarded it to Reed. Check this against your database search. Reed opened the image, zoomed in. NH7, Nightingale 7. He pulled up the classified files, searched for the notation, and there it was. Nightingale 7. Call sign. Ghost Hawk Intelligence Cell. Operator Specialization, SIGINT and Cryptography. Status, Killed in Action, 2019. Reed's hands shook. He tried to access the full file. Access denied. Clearance insufficient. He escalated the request to his SEAL Command liaison. 10 minutes later, his phone rang. Commander Reed, this is Captain Ashford, JSOC Operations. You just flagged a file that has been sealed for 5 years. Why? Reed chose his words carefully. I believe one of the operators listed as KIA may still be alive and currently operating under a false identity. Silence on the other end. Then, stay on this line. Do not discuss this with anyone. We are sending a team. Reed ended the call, looked at Hayes. This just got bigger than us. The next morning, Lila was assigned Mission 4, final test, live extraction drill. She and 4 trainees would rescue a high-value target from a mock compound. Enemy role players with simunition, realistic scenario, high pressure. The team assembled at 0600. Lila, Briggs, Chen. 2 others, Private First Class Novak and Specialist Torres. Briggs was team leader. He briefed the plan. Simple smash and grab. We breach, clear 3 rooms, secure the HVT, extract. Enemy force is supposed to be light resistance. Should be done in 15 minutes. They geared up, loaded magazines with simunition rounds, paint-marking bullets, hurt like hell but non-lethal. The compound was an old warehouse, 2 stories, multiple entry points. The HVT, a role player wearing an orange vest, was somewhere inside. They stacked up at the main door. Briggs counted down. 3, 2, 1, breach. The door swung open. They flowed inside. Immediately, something was wrong. The interior layout did not match the map they had been given. There was an extra hallway, a staircase that should not exist. Briggs cursed. Map is wrong. Adjust. They moved deeper. The first room was clear. The second room had 2 enemy role players. Chen and Torres engaged. Paint rounds flew. Both enemies went down, but more appeared. Way more than light resistance. 6, 8, 10. They were outnumbered. Briggs called out, "Fall back, regroup." But it was too late. Paint rounds hit Torres in the chest. He was dead. Novak took 3 hits to the back. Dead! Chen ran out of ammunition. I am dry. Briggs was hit in the shoulder. He kept moving, but his arm was wounded, unable to use his rifle effectively. That left Lila, and they were surrounded. Lila assessed the situation in seconds. They were in a kill box. No cover, no ammo, no backup. This was supposed to be a training drill, but someone had turned it into a setup. She keyed her radio, standard frequency. "Command, this is Bravo Team. We are taking heavy casualties. Request immediate..." Static. The radio was jammed. Of course it was. Briggs looked at her, paint dripping from his shoulder. "Captain, we are done. We need to call it." Lila stared at the enemy role players closing in, at her team scattered and defeated, at the HVT still missing. She made a decision. She reached to her vest, pulled out a small secondary radio, different frequency, military-grade encryption, the kind that should not exist on a training exercise. She keyed the mic. Her voice changed, no longer hesitant, no longer quiet, flat, cold, professional. "Nightingale 7 to Overwatch. Request immediate extract. Grid November Whiskey 4721, 5 personnel, 1 HVT. Authenticate Tango Hotel November." Silence. Then a voice crackled back. Male. Calm. "Nightingale 7. Authentication confirmed. QRF inbound. ETA 2 minutes." The radio went silent. Briggs stared at her. "What the hell did you just do?" Lila did not answer. She moved to cover, pulled her sidearm. It was loaded with live training rounds, but her posture had changed. Shoulders squared, head up. This was not a desk officer anymore. This was someone who had done this before, for real. The enemy role players hesitated. Something about her stance made them uncertain. Then the door exploded inward. Not breaching charges. Real operators. 4 men in full tactical gear. No markings. No identification. They moved like ghosts. The enemy role players froze. One of them stammered, "This is a drill." The lead operator cut him off. "Drill is over. Clear the area, now." They scattered. The operators secured the room in seconds. Found the HVT. Extracted him. One of them looked at Lila, nodded once, then they were gone. Total time, 90 seconds. Briggs stood in the middle of the warehouse, mouth open. "Who were those guys?" Chen whispered. "Did we just get rescued by actual special forces?" Lila safed her sidearm, holstered it, turned to face her team. For the first time since they met her, she looked directly at them. No hesitation, no submission. "We need to debrief." Her voice was different now. Command voice. The voice of someone used to being obeyed. Briggs blinked. "Captain?" Lila walked past him toward the exit. "Move." They followed. Back at the command center, chaos reigned. Reed stood in front of a wall of monitors, watching footage of the extraction. His face was pale. Hayes stood beside him, arms crossed. On the screen, the moment Lila keyed her radio. "Nightingale 7 to Overwatch." Reed's voice was hoarse. "That call sign was decommissioned in 2019. Hayes pointed at the operators who had responded. "And those men? I recognize their gear. JSOC Quick Reaction Force, the kind of assets you do not deploy for training exercises." Reed rewound the footage. Watched Lila's face, the transformation, from meek to lethal in the span of a breath. "She is not a liaison," he said. Hayes grunted. "No kidding." Reed turned to face him. "If she is Ghost Hawk and she is here pretending to be someone else, then she is on a mission. A real one." "Hunting someone," Hayes agreed. They both turned to look at the monitors. At Colonel Hale's office. Hale was on the phone, pacing, agitated. Reed's jaw tightened. "Oh no." Hayes saw it too. "You think Hale is the target?" "I think," Reed said slowly, "we need to find out what happened in 2019. And why Ghost Hawk was really shut down." On the screen, Lila walked out of the warehouse. She looked up, directly at the camera, as if she knew they were watching, and she smiled. Not a friendly smile. The smile of a hunter who had just flushed her prey into the open. The screen went black. The command center went into lockdown within minutes. Reed made 3 calls, first to JSOC operations, second to NATO security, third to his direct superior at SEAL Command. The message was identical each time. "We have a situation. Ghost Hawk operative active on site. Need immediate containment and briefing." Hayes cleared the room of non-essential personnel. Within 15 minutes, only 2 people remained besides himself and Reed, General Patricia Calloway, JSOC liaison, and Colonel Hale. Hale had been summoned without explanation. He arrived irritated and confused. "Commander Reed, Sergeant Major Hayes, someone want to tell me why I was pulled out of a meeting?" Calloway stood near the monitors, arms crossed. She was 54, gray hair pulled back in a severe bun. 3 deployments, 2 Purple Hearts, not someone who tolerated games. Colonel Hale, are you familiar with the Ghost Hawk intelligence cell? Hale's expression flickered. Just for a moment. Vaguely. That was years ago. Syria Theater. The operation was shut down. Aborted, Calloway corrected. There is a difference. She gestured to the screen, the frozen image of Lila. Captain Anders, what do you know about her? Hale glanced at the monitor. She is a liaison officer, intelligence analyst. Adequate performance, though today's extraction drill revealed some concerning judgment issues. She used unauthorized communication channels and... Those channels were not unauthorized, Reed interrupted. They were classified, reserved for JSOC Quick Reaction Force coordination, the kind of channels only covert operators have access to. Hale stared. That is impossible. Her clearance level does not... Hayes played the audio. Lila's voice. Flat, professional. Nightingale 7 to Overwatch. Request immediate extract. The room went silent. Calloway spoke quietly. Nightingale 7 was a call sign assigned to a Ghost Hawk operative in 2018. Specialization in signals intelligence and cryptography. The operative was declared killed in action following an operation abort in April 2019. She turned to face Hale. An abort that you authorized, Colonel. The color drained from Hale's face. That operation was compromised. Intelligence indicated enemy forces had been alerted to our presence. I made the call to pull out. Standard procedure. 3 operators died during that extraction, Calloway said. Because air support was pulled without warning. Because exfiltration assets were redirected. Because someone decided that mission was expendable. Hale's hands clenched. Are you accusing me of something, General? Calloway did not blink. I am asking you to explain why Captain Lila Anders, listed as KIA for 5 years, is currently walking around your training camp, and why she seems very interested in observing your command decisions. Reed pulled up a file on the main screen. I accessed Ghost Hawk records an hour ago. Required JSOC override. The operation abort in 2019 happened 48 hours before the team was supposed to capture an arms dealer named Konstantin Volkov. The abort order came directly from you, Colonel. Reason listed, intel compromise. But there is no supporting documentation, no source, no evidence that the operation was actually blown. Hale's jaw tightened. My sources were confidential. I was not required to disclose. Your sources were paid, Hayes said. He held up a printed document. I pulled your financial records. Well, not yours personally. That would require a warrant. But I did pull the records for a shell company registered in your wife's maiden name. April 10th, 2019. 2 days before the abort order. Deposit of $200,000. Origin, a holding company linked to Volkov's network. The room froze. Hale's face went from pale to red. That is absurd. You have no proof that money was... The transfer code matches deposits to 3 other officers who were later convicted of corruption, Reed said quietly. Same network, same pattern, same buyer. Calloway stepped forward. Colonel Hale, you are hereby relieved of command pending investigation. Military police are waiting outside. You will surrender your credentials and accompany them to detention. Hale looked around wildly. This is insane. You are basing this on circumstantial evidence and the word of someone who is supposed to be dead. Not just her word, Reed said. He pulled out his phone, played an audio file. Hale's voice, clear and unmistakable. Captain Anders needs to go. I do not care how you do it. Reassign her, fail her, make her life miserable until she requests transfer. Just get her out of my camp. The voice on the other end belonged to Major Cross. Sir, if I may ask, why the urgency? She has not caused any real problems. Hale again. Because if she stays, people will start asking questions. And I cannot afford questions right now. The recording ended. Calloway raised an eyebrow. That conversation took place 4 days ago, shortly after Captain Anders arrived. Hale said nothing. His hands shook. Reed continued. Captain Anders has been recording everything since she arrived. Every interaction, every order, every attempt to sabotage her performance. She came here knowing someone had sold out Ghost Hawk. She just did not know who, so she set a trap. She let herself be humiliated, let herself look weak, and waited to see who would panic. Hale finally found his voice. If she is really Ghost Hawk, then she is a threat, a security risk. She should be detained, not... She is a federal investigator, Calloway said coldly, operating under JSOC authority, with full authorization to conduct this inquiry. You, on the other hand, are under arrest. The door opened. 2 military police officers entered. Hale looked at them, at the handcuffs, at his career dissolving in real time. This is a mistake, he whispered. No, Calloway said. Selling out your own people was the mistake. This is the consequence. They led Hale away. The door closed. Silence filled the command center. Hayes exhaled slowly. Well, that escalated. Reed was staring at the monitor, at Lila's frozen smile. We need to find her. Calloway nodded. Agreed. Commander, you seem to have history with Nightingale 7. Care to share? Reed hesitated. Then he told them. Syria, the convoy, the IED, the small hands pulling him from wreckage, the voice counting breaths. Calloway listened without interruption. When he finished, she said, So she saved your life, and you never knew who she was. Not until today, Reed admitted. But I remember her voice, the way she stayed calm, like saving lives was just another task on a checklist. Hayes pulled up another file. I contacted a friend at JSOC Archives, got some background on Ghost Hawk insignia. Apparently, operatives who completed 3 successful missions earned the right to get the unit tattoo. A hawk. Wings spread. Specific design elements indicated theater of operation and specialty. He zoomed in on a photo, an old image, faded. It showed the back of someone in combat gear, the same tattoo Lila wore. Matte facing left means Syria Theater. Folded wingtips mean redacted status. The text below the hawk is an operation code, 07 Sigma. That was the designator for Volkov interdiction. Calloway studied the image. So everyone saw her tattoo on day 1, but no one understood what it meant. Because Ghost Hawk was classified, Reed said. Even the insignia. Unless you knew what to look for, it just looked like art. And she has been wearing the truth on her skin this whole time, Hayes added, hiding in plain sight. Calloway turned away from the screen. Where is she now? Reed checked the security feed. Barracks, her quarters. Get her. Bring her here. It is time we had an honest conversation. Reed and Hayes found Lila in her room. She was sitting on the edge of her bunk, still in her tactical gear from the extraction drill. She did not seem surprised to see them. Commander, Sergeant Major. Her voice was neutral, calm. Reed stepped inside. Hayes closed the door. Captain Anders, or should I say Nightingale 7? Lila met his eyes. Lila is fine. Reed pulled up a chair, sat down. Syria, 2018. Convoy ambush outside Aleppo. You were there. Lila nodded slowly. I was the analyst your team was escorting. You pulled me out, Reed said. His voice was rough. The vehicle was on fire. I was trapped. You dragged me to cover, kept me breathing until the medevac arrived. You were 19, Lila said quietly. Too young to die because someone sold coordinates to the enemy. Reed blinked. What? The ambush was not random, Lila explained. Someone leaked our route. We lost 2 Marines that day. You almost became the 3rd. Ghost Hawk investigated, found evidence of insider corruption, but we could not prove who. Hayes leaned against the wall. So JSOC sent you back, undercover, to flush out the mole. Lila stood, walked to the window. Not officially. Officially, I died in 2019 when Hale aborted the Volkov operation. My body was never recovered. Story closed. But JSOC suspected Hale was the leak. They just needed proof. So they gave me a new assignment. Liaison officer. Clean record, no combat experience, someone he would dismiss. Reed shook his head. You let him tear you apart. Let everyone mock you, for weeks. For evidence, Lila corrected. She turned to face them. I needed him to feel safe, to think I was harmless. Every insult, every act of sabotage, every humiliation. I recorded it all, built a pattern, proved he was targeting me specifically, which only makes sense if he knew who I really was. Hayes understood. But if he knew you were Ghost Hawk, why would he target you? That would just draw attention. Because he is not smart, Lila said. He is scared. When I showed up, his first instinct was to make me disappear before anyone started asking questions. He thought if he could break me quickly, no one would care. Just another washout. Reed stood. You used yourself as bait. I used myself as a test, Lila said, to see if Hale would panic, and he did. Spectacularly. She pulled a small device from her pocket, a digital recorder. Every conversation, every order to sabotage my gear, every attempt to isolate or humiliate me. All here. Admissible evidence of command abuse. And when cross-referenced with his financial records, it establishes motive. He knew Ghost Hawk was coming back. He just did not know it was me until today. Hayes whistled softly. You played him perfectly. Lila's expression did not change. 3 of my teammates died because he took money to abort a mission. This is not about playing games. This is about justice. Reed asked the question that had been bothering him. Why did you let it go so far? The shirt? The mockery? You could have revealed yourself earlier. Lila looked at him. Because revealing myself does not prove corruption. It just proves I am alive. I needed Hale to show his hand, to prove he was willing to destroy an officer he supposedly did not know. That desperation, that is what seals a conviction. The door opened. Calloway entered. Captain Anders, we need you in the briefing room, now. They walked through the camp. Soldiers stared. Word had spread that something major was happening. Hale being arrested, military police everywhere, rumors flying. In the briefing room, a panel waited. Calloway, 2 JSOC investigators, a legal officer, and sitting to one side, looking nervous, Corporal Briggs and Lieutenant Foster. Lila stopped, looked at them. Briggs stood when she entered. Captain Anders, I owe you an apology for what I did, for how I treated you. Foster nodded. We both do. We were told you were just someone who did not belong. We did not question it. Lila studied them. You were following orders from someone you trusted. That does not make it right, Briggs said. His voice was firm. I tore your shirt. I humiliated you in front of everyone. And I am sorry. For what it is worth, I will testify. About everything Hale ordered me to do. Foster added, I unlocked his encrypted emails. From the server. There are communications with Cross, with others, coordinating how to make you fail. It is all documented. Lila nodded slowly. Thank you. Calloway gestured to the table. Captain Anders, please sit. We need your full statement. Lila sat. The recording began. For the next 20 minutes, she walked them through everything. Her real identity. The Ghost Hawk abort. The deaths. The investigation. Her arrival at the camp. Every instance of sabotage and harassment. The pattern of Hale's behavior. The evidence she had gathered. When she finished, the room was silent. Then Calloway spoke. Captain, I need to understand something. You endured weeks of abuse. You let people believe you were weak, incompetent. Why not just arrest Hale immediately? Lila looked at her hands. Because arresting him does not fix the system. It just removes one corrupt officer. I needed to show that the system allowed this to happen, that someone could target an officer, sabotage their career, destroy their reputation, and no one questioned it. Everyone saw me get torn down. Everyone watched, and most did nothing. She looked up. That is the real problem, not Hale. He is just a symptom. The disease is the culture that let him get away with it for so long. The legal officer leaned forward. So this was not just about catching Hale. It was about exposing the infrastructure that enabled him. And creating a record, Lila said. So the next person who speaks up has evidence that the system failed before, and that it got fixed. Accountability is not just about punishment, it is about change. Calloway nodded slowly. Understood. For the record, your methods are highly irregular, but effective. She glanced at the investigators. Recommendations? One of the investigators spoke. Full audit of Colonel Hale's command decisions dating back 5 years, review of all personnel actions, establish an anonymous reporting system for troops to flag retaliation, mandatory training on command climate and harassment prevention. The other added, and formal recognition of Ghost Hawk operations. The unit has been redacted long enough. Those operators deserve acknowledgement. Calloway agreed. Make it happen. Captain Anders, you are officially cleared of all suspicions. Your status is restored. Ghost Hawk service will be added to your permanent record with appropriate commendations. Lila nodded. Thank you, ma'am. Calloway stood. One more thing. JSOC wants to offer you an instructor position. CRE School, teaching survival and resistance techniques to the next generation of operators. You have proven you can endure anything. We need people like you training others. Lila was quiet for a moment, then she said, I appreciate the offer, ma'am, but I am not done yet. Calloway raised an eyebrow. Done with what? Lila did not answer. The meeting ended. People filed out. Reed stayed behind. Lila, can I ask you something? She looked at him. About Syria, he said. When you pulled me out, you could have left me, grabbed the intel and extracted. That would have been the smart play. You were 19, Lila repeated, and you were alive. That made the decision easy. Reed's throat tightened. I never got to say thank you. You just did, Lila said. She stood, Commander, you have had a long day. Get some rest. She walked to the door, paused. And Reed, you turned out okay. I am glad. She left. Reed sat alone in the empty room. His hands were shaking, not from fear, from relief, from grief, from gratitude, all at once. Justice took years. Justice took patience. Justice took someone willing to endure hell to expose the truth. Think you could do it? Hit that thanks button if this story moved you. And subscribe because Phase 2 is coming. And it is going to be bigger. That night, the camp was quiet. Hale was in detention. His office sealed. His files confiscated. Word spread quickly. Soldiers who had mocked Lila now avoided eye contact. Some looked ashamed, others confused. A few angry, but not at her, at themselves, for not seeing, for not questioning, for going along. In the mess hall, Hayes sat with a cup of coffee. Sergeant Carter joined him. I heard what happened, about Captain Anders, about who she really is. Hayes nodded. You heard right. Carter shook his head. I watched her shoot. I knew it was not normal, but I convinced myself it was luck, wind, anything but the truth. We see what we expect to see, Hayes said. She counted on that. Carter was quiet. Then, is she staying? Do not know, Hayes admitted, but I doubt it. People like her do not stay in one place long. They are always hunting something. Carter left. Hayes sat alone. He thought about the spent casings arranged in triangles, the way Lila breathed, the control, the discipline. He had seen a lot of soldiers in 32 years, but he had never seen someone weaponize humility the way she had, turning weakness into strength, patience into power. It was terrifying and inspiring. In her quarters, Lila sat on her bunk. She pulled out the challenge coin, turned it over in her hands. The worn metal caught the light. On one side, the Hawk insignia. On the other, the serial number, GHO7114. She set it on the small table beside her bunk. Then she opened her laptop. The screen glowed in the darkness. Her inbox showed one new message. Sender, encrypted. Subject line, blank. She opened it. The text was brief. Tower 4 sends regards. Target confirmed. Ramstein Air Base, Germany. Estimated time of arrival, 72 hours. Operation Nightfall, Phase 2. Authentication. Tango Hotel, November. Below the text, 3 attachments. She opened the first. A map of Ramstein Air Base. Key buildings highlighted. Flight schedules. Security rotations. The second attachment was a dossier. 3 faces, 2 men, 1 woman. Names redacted, but their positions were clear. Logistics officers, contracting officials, financial administrators. The third attachment was a single line of text in red. Eliminate network. Recover funds. Restore accountability. Lila stared at the screen. Phase 2. She had known it was coming. Hale was just one piece. The network that enabled him, that profited from corruption, was still operational. Still selling out soldiers. Still trading lives for money. JSOC wanted it burned down, and they wanted her to light the match. She closed the laptop, leaned back against the wall. Her body ached. Weeks of taking hits, enduring insults, playing weak had taken a toll. Not just physically, emotionally. There was a cost to swallowing your pride, to letting people treat you as less than human, to watching them laugh while you bled. But it worked. Hale was finished. The system was changing. And now she had clearance to go after the rest. She stood, walked to the window. Outside, the camp was dark. A few lights in distant buildings. Sentries walking patrol routes. Normal. Quiet. Then she saw it. A figure. Standing near the perimeter fence. Too far to make out details. But they were watching her window. She did not move. Just observed. The figure raised something. Binoculars. They watched for 10 seconds, then lowered the optics. Raised a radio, spoke into it. Lila could not hear the words, but she knew what they were saying. Hawk is active. Proceed to Phase 2. The figure turned and walked away. Disappeared into shadow. Lila stood at the window for a long time. She did not feel victorious. She felt tired. Tired of hunting. Tired of hiding. Tired of pretending to be something she was not. But tiredness did not matter. The mission mattered. The 3 operators who died in 2019 mattered. The countless others who had been betrayed by people like Hale mattered. Justice was not loud. It was not fast. It was patient, methodical, relentless, and she was very good at it. She turned from the window, pulled her gear bag from under the bunk, started packing. Spare clothes, medical supplies, the challenge coin, her sidearm, everything she would need for Ramstein. There was a knock at the door. She tensed, hand moving toward her weapon. "It is Reed." She relaxed, opened the door. Reed stood in the hallway. He looked exhausted. "Could not sleep," he said. "Figured you could not either." Lila stepped aside, let him in. He sat on the chair. She sat on the bunk. They were quiet for a moment. Then Reed said, "You are leaving." It was not a question. "Tomorrow," Lila confirmed. "Early." "Ramstein?" Reed asked. Lila tilted her head. "How did you know?" "Because I know how these things work," Reed said. "You do not take down one corrupt officer and call it done. You follow the chain, find the source." Lila nodded. "There are others, people who sold information, who profited from betrayal. Hale was just a customer. Someone was selling." "And you are going to find them," Reed said. "Yes." Reed leaned forward. "Let me help." Lila shook her head. "This is not your fight." "You saved my life," Reed said. "I owe you." "You owe me nothing," Lila replied. "You survived. You became a good officer. That is enough." Reed was quiet. Then he said, "When I was 19, bleeding out in that Humvee, I remember thinking I was going to die. And I was okay with it. Because I had volunteered, I knew the risks. But then you pulled me out, and you said something I never forgot." "What did I say?" Lila asked. Reed met her eyes. "You said, 'Not today, not on my watch.' And I believed you. I do not know why, but I did, and you were right." Lila looked away. "I was doing my job." "No," Reed said. "You were being who you are, someone who does not quit, who does not leave people behind, who fights even when it costs everything." He stood. "So if you are going after these people, you do not have to do it alone. JSOC has resources, support. You do not have to carry this by yourself." Lila smiled faintly. "I appreciate that, Commander, but some hunts require one person. Too many players, and the prey scatters." Reed nodded. He understood. "Then promise me something. When it is done, when you have burned the whole network down, take a break. Rest. Let someone else carry the weight for a while." Lila did not answer. Reed sighed, walked to the door, paused. "Lila, thank you. For everything." She nodded. "Get some sleep, Commander." He left. Lila locked the door, finished packing, lay down on the bunk, still fully clothed, stared at the ceiling. Sleep did not come easily. It never did. Too many memories, too many faces, too many voices of people she could not save. But she had saved some. Reed, Lee, others over the years. That had to count for something. The ceiling fan spun slowly, casting shadows. She focused on her breathing. 4 counts in, 4 counts out, 4 counts hold. Repeat. Gradually her body relaxed. Her mind quieted, and she drifted. When she woke, it was 04:30, before dawn. She dressed quickly, grabbed her bag, walked out of the barracks. The camp was still asleep, only a few sentries awake. She walked to the motor pool, found her assigned vehicle, threw her bag in the back, started the engine. As she pulled out of the gate, she glanced in the rearview mirror. The camp lights grew smaller, fading into the dark. She thought about Hale, about Briggs, about Foster, about all the people who had underestimated her. They would remember this, remember that appearances deceive, that quiet does not mean weak, that patience is its own kind of power. She drove east, toward the airfield, toward Germany, toward Ramstein, toward Phase 2. Behind her in the camp, Hayes stood at his window, watched the taillights disappear. He raised his coffee mug in a silent salute. Then he turned away. On Lila's desk, the challenge coin sat where she had left it. Morning light crept through the window, illuminated the engraving, the hawk, wings spread, talons curled. Below it the words etched in metal, 07 Sigma, silent, lethal, forgotten. But Lila was not forgotten, not by the people she saved, not by the people she hunted, not by the system she was forcing to change. She was a ghost, a hawk in the night, and ghosts do not rest until their work is done. The coin gleamed in the light, waiting for its owner to return, or waiting to be found by the next hunter. Either way, the message was clear. Ghost Hawk never missed a target, especially justice.